And Brad, we are live. Welcome to the
Hey.
Entrepreneur Mindset. Hold the mustard. I'm just trying to press live on Instagram as well. For some reason, okay, there we go. Instagram has always got a delay of sorts, but we are live on both sides. It's been a month, and we're at the end of this month, and I can't wait to discuss today's conversation, letting go to find flow and really the power of surrender in business growth. Good to have you back, Brad, as always. And we both came rushed in here today, and we nearly never had this segment. But I'm so grateful that we said, no, let's just have it and let's just move it out today. So I want to thank those that were waiting and followed up with us yesterday. I'm sorry that we
Yeah.
had to reschedule. We both had events that we had to be at. Life happens, but we're so grateful for your support and always showing up and contributing meaningfully to the segment. Over to you, Brad. How have you been?
Yeah, I've been good. Hey. Yeah, been good. I've been good. A lot of still learning and growing as a business owner.
Yeah.
We've established a little group of companies and we're really out there, growing, and we've got quite a nice young team, which makes me feel ancient. But I think it's good for the legacy plan, to have this entity stay around beyond me and beyond the senior partners. But yeah, we're doing well. We're doing well. We're going to be doing a lot of traveling. And, I'm really passionate about where we stay, where we work, stay, and operate. So, yeah,
Mhm.
good. Ready to talk through letting go.
Yeah. And I see Kelsey. Thank you, Kelsey. Yes, we are also glad to have the session and always such a pleasure having you join us with your energy on the virtual realm. And I can't wait for next month because next month you are actually joining us in studio, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
looking
Kelsey will be
forward to
joining
that.
us.
And I see
Yeah.
Khadija has joined on the Instagram. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to start with a question around how mindful are you or are we of our attachments? Because the theme being the power of surrender in business growth, it seems if we attach, then what are we attached to? But some of our discussion points today is going to be around letting go of constant striving, real life experiences, overcoming mental exhaustion, and then finding your flow. And as always, we look forward to your audience engagement. Connections Female Network just joined as well. Thank you for your presence here. Brad, over to you.
Yeah, so I want to segue a little bit around, what an attachment to, and it could also be around our belief system. And I think we're just experiencing it in such mass at the moment, where we are just being inundated with, people questioning, what they're hanging on to, their core beliefs, and people showing their true beliefs and showing, what governs their decision making. And as small businesses, we sometimes feel a bit helpless when there's global issues happening and when we have global shifts like we've had in the last 1 or 2 months. I mean, there's been a massive shift globally. And here, where we work, and because we've got such a small industry, we tend to feel pressured that we have to be part of the discussion somehow, that we have to prove our core and guiding beliefs. But I recently wrote a piece around, kind of I am who I am. I'm showing up, I'm pushing forward my business, I have a plan. And in essence, I don't really have time to weigh in on this mammoth discussions that I'm having between left and right.
Mhm.
So I'm really glad we're having this session, but I would like to just deviate a little bit and talk around our core and guiding beliefs and how important they are in the letting go process.
But absolutely. I mean, it's the one thing in every partnership that I have in terms of my own business, whether it's a coaching partnership, whether it's a strategic strategy execution, whether it is designing thinking or systems thinking, it always is underpinned by the core beliefs, that conditioned programming that is actually shaping the narrative on how we show up in our lives. So it is the most pivotal piece to actually, it's not a deviation. It's the most pivotal piece that we need to start with. And here's a fly flying around here, irritating me. Anyway, so Brad, it's not a deviation. Let's start there. I mean, what are you finding in the industry and within our space, within the SMME space, is happening? Are people even aware of what is influencing their decisions? Are they aware of their guiding beliefs?
I think people are aware of it, but I don't think people understand. Look, I'm not perfect in any way, but I think we lose sight on the fact that we are in business, we small business owners. On our own, we have very little influence on what happens in global affairs. We're not sitting at the G20, we're not sitting in the US, we're not sitting in Europe, where we can be part of these big discussions, but we are definitely affected by those decisions. But because we are affected by those decisions, we feel the need to become quite opinionated and kind of push our agenda or push our feeling out towards anyone who's prepared to listen. And I feel like that burns a lot of energy, where we maybe should be just focusing on really just understanding that risk will always be there. External threats will always be there. It's not new. What's happening in global politics is not something, it might be different in its approach at the moment, but we have had radical shifts, 80s, early 2000s, and business is business. You have to get on with business. So I find that my part of letting go and what I've advised the SMEs that I work with is let go of this constant need to justify your core and guiding beliefs and take ownership of the fact that this is who you are. You're doing this for a specific reason. This is my success story. I'm aware of what's happening out there, but I'm incredibly focused on what I need to deliver as a business owner. Now, obviously, this is within reason. If you're sitting, in Palestine, or you're sitting somewhere where there's a lot of war and there's you're in the northern Ukraine, this is going to be very difficult for you. But in South Africa, we are actually so blessed because we can occupy our space with relatively low amount of aggression towards us as business owners. And that is really important for me, is this focus, the shift in focus to getting on with your business is vital.
I'm sighing, but it's not a sigh of I'm overwhelmed in any way. It's a sigh of relief because it's it's just flipping the script, right? And it's a similar conversation I had with a coaching partner and quite a well-established business owner. And we were talking about business risk. And I said, what if we shifted the language from business risk to business success? And I think that's what you're alluding to here right now, is that the moment we attach ourselves to these external macroeconomic factors and environments, whatever the political climate is dictating, we lose sight of what it is we're meant to do. And yes, you are spot on, we are influenced by what's happening, but we also have within our control to be the influencer of the outcome. And it takes an adjustment of our mindset. It takes an adjustment of owning our truth, like you say, because we do tend to want to go with the tide, go with the trends, and it doesn't serve us or those that we are serving within our businesses. And it actually stunts the growth personally, professionally, and economically. And then as a country, we get affected because everything comes to a standstill. So I do honestly feel that we need to come back to truth in our core beliefs, and we need to walk it, not just talk it, because otherwise they simply just become those words on walls, the wow factor, whether we have smaller business that can represent what we stand for, that we so proudly put on the walls, but are we really truly embodying it and walking that talk? Not often, because we get so influenced. So, I mean, I'm looking at our first point was letting go of constant striving. Why stepping back doesn't mean giving up, but rather making room for opportunity. We underestimate when we don't try and control and we let go how much we're able to actually manifest into our space. Let's talk about that just briefly in the first point of our discussion points.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to step back. It's very difficult as a small business owner. You're sitting on the 27th of the month, salaries are due. And, I'm telling you, let go, you stop working yourself up to a point where you're making yourself ill, where you're deviating from your success story, where you're entertaining, um, other influences in your space telling you how you should be working and etc. And actually go back to your roots and explore that while all of this unpacks around you. And a lot of people will go, but if I don't push, I'm not going to pay the bills. But we need to be careful, specifically as small business owners. We have a very long time in business. If you join a corporate environment and you're earning a salary and you have a career, your career spans a certain period of time and it will end and you will move on to something else. For us business owners, this is our life. This is our lifestyle. And if you're constantly pushing and forcing change when maybe that change is not ready to happen, you're going to exhaust yourself and you're going to become a silhouette of who you really are. You're going to lose your values. You're going to start compromising deals. You're going to start doing things that you wouldn't ordinarily do. And I get it that we are so influenced. I mean, the piece that I wrote, I spoke about, you wake up in the morning and, you just have to go into your socials and people are screaming at you about what you should be like and what's happening in the world. And a lot of that content is not real. And a lot of that content doesn't pertain to us as business owners. But we absorb it because we're so exhausted that we're looking for something just to keep us going. But my point is that is all within. And if you step back and allow stuff to happen, that will then definitely help drive you forward. So it's just us in the session, guys, just me on my own. So A's disappeared, but I'm going to carry on because this was such a big thing for me. When I wrote this piece,
Right.
yeah, I see you
I'm
back.
back.
It's cool. I'm going on a tangent about this piece that I wrote with the audience. But
Please go ahead.
sorry, man. You know what? It was just to really cut the conversation and just get to the realness of it all. I mean, you used to be able to do business and you used to be able to handshake a deal and have these real conversations with fellow business owners. And I sometimes believe that we really, hey, Korma, how's it going? We really believe that, as business owners, we have to live up to the expectation of the big leaders at the top, the big corporates. We have to live up to what's happening in our governments, etc. But sometimes I believe we are the beacons of hope because we are the guys that are on the ground and we are the guys that on a day-to-day basis, we're showing up unconditionally. We're not telling other people how to run their businesses. We're not forcing our ideology down on somebody else's throat. All we're doing is we're waking up, kind of hustling to get our money in to keep our businesses going. We don't have the luxuries of having global trips across the world to do, the scope to see how other people do it. Our point of reference is from what we know in our immediate surroundings. But most importantly, there's nothing more valuable than your inner knowledge, your inner greatness, your divinity that you bake into when you're a business owner, because that is the one thing that is constant and will keep going as long as you pay attention to it. Letting go is about allowing sometimes things to happen, not forcing things, pushing things through that are not meant to go through is only going to give you problems down the line. So point one is really just for this long journey we have, the letting go is part of that. You got to know when to push, know when to sit and take a break, go out and push again, come back, sit underneath a tree, give it a bit of time, push again. And that ebb and flow is really important to any small business out there.
You know, I love that you're keeping it real, because this is what we always do. Every day is not the same. You know, there are days that it's so difficult where you can reach out and constantly push, and you know, you're doing what you're supposed to do as a business owner. And you start to question, there are days you question, but I'm doing everything right. And nothing's translating into the output or the impact that you so desire. And you hit the nail on the head. That's the time you've got to step away. We've got to absolutely step away and get grounded, because somewhere, somehow, that internal wisdom or internal reservoir or whatever innately is there, something's blocking you and you don't even realize it, because you are still trying to push and prod and hustle. And the moment you step aside, I've seen it personally, Brad, and I'm sure you know, you can attest to this. And we've had this conversation multiple times on this segment for different topic themes, I might add. But it is that just staying true to the mission and doing the actions in support of that mission, and now stepping away and saying, okay, if I know I'm a divinely guided human being that is here for the purpose of delivering on this mission, I'll do my part, and it's up to the higher power to make this happen. If it is meant to be manifested for that particular business owner, sometimes we also need to walk away because maybe it's not the right thing. So, any tips we can give the audience in those subtle messages or nuances of when we need to walk away?
So I've got an experience myself, what I did, because I knew we were coming into the session. And what I love about these sessions that I do with you is that we have a lot of post views. So a lot of people viewing us after the session has gone live, and after it's sat in the space for a while, we start getting a lot of people coming back to us and saying, hey, I've watched the recording. So what I'm going to share with you, I believe, is relevant at any given time. I've done this exercise where as soon as my stress levels reach a certain point, and I've decided on what that point is, I stop what I'm doing and I go and do something that I prefer to do. So if I'm a gamer, so I would switch off, let the team know I'm not available, and I would game for a while. Go and grab a coffee. The other day I walked through a mall. I'm not a mall person, but I walked through a mall and it was so super interesting because, especially if it's a different mall, because, well, this was a different mall. And it was very pretty and different, and people were different, and it caught my attention. And I started getting some really creative ideas. And actually, when I came back to face this thing that I was not enjoying, the thing had actually not been there anymore. It had already been resolved. It had already sorted itself out. So I get very annoyed when I'm in a low space, somebody says, what's meant to be is meant to be. Because when you're in a low space, you don't see that. All you see is, I'm really not performing at my best. I'm expected to be like this. I'm expected to do this. I'm showing up, but I'm not doing this properly. My point is, at that junction, you should know or learn or perhaps get the skill to say, well, okay, hang on. This is not working for me. I'm going to switch off for a while. Now, when I speak to SMMEs around this, we do a lot of talks. We've just come back from Mpumalanga. We're going to be doing some stuff in the Northwest. We just spoke here in Joburg. And when you tell an SMME, you've got to stop what you're doing, the amount of pushback that you get you get, well, I'm a plumber and I have a certain amount of jobs to do in the day, and I'm this and I can't. That's not what I'm saying. You could still be present, but don't push. Allow. Just let it be. Allow it to unfold and witness that and experience that amazing discomfort that you're feeling, or the super weirdness that unfolds with the plumbing job that's gone wrong and you're really trying to do stuff. But the point is, stop the pushing. You can still be present every day in your business, but you can also step back and allow things to happen in your business naturally. We're pushing too hard because we're getting all of this information put onto our shoulders that says, by 25, you've got to be a millionaire. By 50, you've got to know. This is how Elon Musk's the richest man in the world. And where are you right now? And to be just like me, you've got to do these top 10 things. But life is not, that is not our purpose here. Our purpose here is to internalize and fulfill our inner journey, not to chase external milestones, but it's actually the inner journey. So if your success story is, I want to spend X amount of time with my kids during the day, that is your success story. It's the basis of your success story. So you're time restricted in your business. Stick to that. Push that. Drive that. And allow that to happen. And I'm certain it's a game changer. It's a game changer. I'm telling you, I hope what I'm saying is making sense. But for me,
it is. It resonates.
That allowing that messiness to unfold without cupping in all the time, and rather just allow and observe, you start to notice things. You're like, okay, but hang on, here's a quicker solution. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to actually entertain this person right now. I'm going to let that be. And it just changes your perspective on how you run your business. And then you start to get so excited about what you do, and you start to fall in love with what you do again.
You know, Brad, I always enjoy these conversations with you because it's emotive. I emotionally connect to what you're saying, you know, and it's my mission in life to bring people back to just letting it be, the good, the bad, the down, outright ugly. How dare we shame when we're not feeling good? How dare we even shame when things aren't going well? And what are these societal norms or construct based on? What you said earlier, the conditioned beliefs, your guiding beliefs. That is not, I suppose we need to re-look at, are those guiding beliefs still true? Do they need to be revisited? Do they need to be rewritten and reshaped in somewhat, in many forms? I can certainly attest to the idea of just being in my essence, and when my inner villain shows up and I'm being the rebellious child that just feel like I'm tired of this day or I don't want to do this, I want to be able to do just that. Rebellious in that moment, and not go to what societal norms dictate us to be and show up as. So I feel that it is important to be an allowance of whatever is coming up for us in those moments. It's not easy being a business owner, especially a small business owner. It's not easy trying to grow and scale it, especially if you're not more than a certain amount of people, or you're a solopreneur. And you can go very much into your headspace. So you said something quite pertinent earlier on. It is about sitting still and observing of what's coming up and truly listening to what's coming up and being able to connect and say, is this true what I'm feeling? Or is it connected to a past story? Or is it connected to a future fear of something? But I feel that we just need to stay in our authenticity, and that's where it starts to lack. We're trying to keep up with what is happening out there. I'm just mindful. How does that impact our mental, which is leading into our next discussion point that you've wanted us to talk about.
Mm.
Overcoming mental exhaustion. How are we going to balance these demands? And you gave some things like just switching off and walking a mall that you never actually did before, but it gave you so much insight. So how do we remain curious when the negatives come up and actually be discerning around what is true and what's an illusion? Sometimes we're living in this illusion of the emotions, the thoughts, and the behaviors and the patterns that show up. What are we doing with this mental burnout that is prevalent in our SMME space and not talked about enough? I feel it's not spoken about enough.
So I think
Should
once
we be doing
we,
something? Should we be
yeah,
doing something? Should we be raising more awareness around it and less shame around it?
I think, I believe mental wellness, I think it is widely discussed. I believe it's kind of widely discussed, and I would say pretty okayly, if that's a word, accepted within a South African context. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love living here. You know, it's because we can have these discussions and we can have them maturely. You know, we're not screaming at each other or forcing certain beliefs down each other's throats. We have so many belief systems kind of fabricated together in our society, and that kind of pushes through into your business ownership. And I think we need to pick on that. I don't think we need to raise awareness to the negativities out there of running a business. I think we need to raise awareness to the amazing feeling you get when you are in control of your business, but you also have that ability to allow and let go. And that beautiful balance between the two, when you reach that, when you're in that space, and you won't be in that space constantly, you will fall out of that space. We're human beings. But personal experience, when I'm in that space, when I have that beautiful balance, I see such amazing growth in my business. We almost leapfrog ahead, and then I kind of fall out of that space, and then I kind of feel like we stack a couple of steps back, and then we leapfrog. But the point is, we're moving forward. I just believe that we spend too much time listening to others, and when we listen to others because it feeds our fears. We will talk about what's happening in the US now because it kind of justifies the fact that I couldn't quite show up yesterday. We talk about what's happening, in Gaza at the moment because it kind of justifies why I just don't feel like focusing on my business. I think take ownership of the fact that we don't want to be in our business every single day. And we want to take time out, and we want to go and smell the roses and walk in the grass and spend time with our kids or attend prayer. I mean, some of us are praying throughout the day. We want the time to do that. But don't use external influences to justify your positioning and justify why you are not growing within. So when you are feeling like, I'm feeling a little bit insecure about myself and my business, that is the perfect time to go internal, not external. Because all you're going to do is you're going to jump onto Instagram and you're going to get one influencer that tells you how they bought their Ferrari at freaking 30 years old, when we know it's nonsense. And unfortunately, we have a lot of that. And I often go back to the SMME and say, okay, let's go within. Start from the beginning. Why are you doing what you're doing? Talk through it with me. And those are some of the things that you can do. So I know I've spoken a lot, but I just want to share a couple of tips. One, if you're not aware of what I'm saying, or if you believe you're not doing what I'm telling you you're doing it because we all do it. Keep a journal just for a week. Write down everything big in that day that you've experienced, from the social media you're visiting, to the coffee that you had at Spur, to the client that you went to go and see, to the taxi that pulled in front of you. Write it all down. And you're going to start picking up patterns. And you're going to start realizing how much time and energy you waste on things you have zero influence on. And the one thing you should be focused on, and the one thing you have 1,000%, if you ever get that, influence over is your inner journey. And that is the whole point around this art of letting go.
I have a similar view. And in fact, when I have, once again, any partnership opportunity, whether it's individual or in groups or at a larger organizational context, I set the context right up front and I make it abundantly clear that if you're coming here to work alongside with me on this partnership journey, here's the reality. If you're going to be projecting outside of yourself and not willing to sit, pause, reflect, take the insight of what is mine to own and what am I actually projecting and blaming on the outside world. And if you're not willing to look at the mirror of the relationships you're surrounded by, or the circumstances and the events, then it would be a waste of your money, time, and effort to work with me. Because the one thing I prefer doing, being a small business owner myself, I have to constantly introspect and say, when am I in that victim mentality? And I'm using the word victim. It is strong. I know that. But unfortunately, we show up as the victims of our circumstances, of the environment, or of the economic climate. And I mean, you and I are speaking the same thing. We're saying different things, but it comes down to the same thing. And I also say that if you're coming to me because you asked me to do it, whether it's a business strategy, whether it is a branding or culture exercise, it has to have both sides of the coin, personal and professional, because those structures both support getting to the end purpose or intentionality that you have set for your business or your personal life. And I don't believe the one can work independently of the other. So often business owners are like, yeah, I need money. I need to have sales and marketing tools. And this is not working. I don't have the right level of marketing. My website is too static. I don't have e-commerce on it, etc., etc. Now, let me put something out there. You can have all the tools, all the frameworks, sufficient resources, and access to funding. But Brad is 1000% accurate when he says that if you don't take care and nurture the inner journey, go back internally to look at how you are showing up and what is driving that. It's the tip of the iceberg. It's where the Titanic for you personally is going to sink. And what that means is either your business is going to be at the end of its lifespan, and personally and professionally, you may not continue. But let's focus on the positive. If you are keen to pursue looking within, that's gold. It's priceless. And that's the influence that we have. It's like the moment we take everything and everyone out of the equation and we pause and we, like you say, do that reflective exercises, I have found, hey, but here's where I was triggered. This is still the work I need to do. Because the triggers are, I wrote about this week as well, or last week, I can't even remember, where I said that the triggers are there and they're always going to be there, but listen intuitively to what it's asking you to look at. We can't move forward until we accept and treasure and see it as teachers for us on this journey, in our SMME journey. It's lonely, Brad. It's lonely to be on this journey, but it can be super empowering if you realize that nothing externally is going to get your business to the level that you'd like it to get to until that internal reservoir is full and flourishing.
Yeah, listen. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, man. I don't know if you were breaking, but yeah, look, ways you can you can really so there is and I know we always cross that kind of boundary between talking through the SMME journey and the spiritual element, and we
Yes.
all have such different beliefs and across so many myriad of different religions and faiths. But I'm a firm believer that whatever your faith is, it should play a very big role in how you approach your business and how you approach the execution of the services and products that you offer to your customer. And when you know your customer really well, I do think it's a selling advantage in any way to be very on top of your faith and very vocal about your faith and what your belief systems are, because there's no faith out there that says be a shitty plumber. There's no faith out there that says be a liar. It's like all faith pushes great fundamentals. But I see it so often, and actually twice this week. You come into this amazing company that's been created, and I'm talking about big companies, started off small businesses, have started to move up, moving out of that range and starting to move into a large company kind of structure. And the owner's never there. It's not engaged. Staff have issues. Things are not operating correctly. Where's the owner? No, he's not here. He's away on leave, or he's out on business, or he's playing golf, or whatever. And I get it that networking is really important. I also network quite a bit, but I'm always present in my business. I'm always present across all the businesses that I'm a partner in, because it plays a huge role in how you show up. But you can't be present and have this daily romance with all these companies that you're involved in if you within are not solid, and if you within are not happy. So if you are out there right now and you're coming home from your day, let's say I like to use the example of a plumber, because that was the guy that objected, one of the guys. And you have to do a certain amount of jobs, and you've got your call outs, and you've gone out and you've done your jobs, and you get home and you're exhausted. It's 5 o'clock, maybe even 6 o'clock, and you're exhausted. You're dead tired. Watch what you do for the rest of your day, because that becomes really important. Obviously, you would attend to your family if you have a family, and then you would go off and do something that would distract you and get your mind off how exhausted you are. But that is where the problem sometimes comes in, because you will watch a certain TV show, or you will doom scroll across a certain social media channel, and that is going to start influencing your mindset even further to where you were at that point. So my suggestion is cut out social media after a certain time in the evening. If you're going to watch a program, keep it lighthearted, keep it irrelevant to your thought patterns. If it's just there for noise, put it on. Ideally, put music on, because you can't associate anything visual with music unless you have a memory, and that's a good thing. So put some really great music on that you enjoy. Spend the time detaching from this need to have to go to social media or go to the news channel, or worse, go to Facebook, God forbid. I'm not a fan of Facebook. It's a completely irrelevant platform for me in general. And, just be careful of where you're spending your downtime. And when you choose to let go and surrender, don't let go and surrender and go and talk about politics with somebody. Remove yourself from that. Let go and surrender and go and do something that clears your space. And if you are spiritually inclined, use that let go and surrender, coincide that with a session with your faith. I mean, it's just, meeting an elder in your congregation, or in your church or synagogue, or wherever you go, or going out and meditating. I mean, we've got a beautiful Buddhist temple here, just outside of Joburg here. And if that is your inclination, go and spend time there. So when we surrender and we step within, we have an obligation to ensure that we're not bringing outside influences when we're doing that process. We have to shut ourselves off from all of the external threats that we have out there, and that will make us stronger SMMEs. That was very long.
No, I love it. I love it. No, it makes me think about a fable I shared earlier this week as well, which is or a parable of the two wolves within us, and one embodies the peace, wisdom, and restraint, whereas the other is fueled by anger, resentment, and pain. The one that thrives is the one we feed, right? And I absolutely love the idea of when we are going to surrender and let go, it means we need to release ourselves completely from the negative stuff that we feed ourselves with. Again, the parable of the two wolves. Which one are we feeding? Because the one is in the survival region where we're in that fight, flight, freeze, fawn, faint stage in terms of the brain science. And the other one is in the thriving. I like to say it's the inner gogo or the inner sage or your inner Jedi that you're tapping into. And when you're tapping into that inner Jedi, you are in such a deep place of empathy for yourself and others. So no matter what's going on in the world, it doesn't, and there's empathy and there's empathy. There's empaths, and people tend to take on whatever's coming into their space. But the light side of empathy or being an empath is when you can discern what you're going to take in and what's not yours to hold. Because we can certainly hold sacred space and be empathetic towards ourselves and others, but we cannot be consumed by taking on everything that is happening in and around us. And once we do that, it also shifts us into a space of curiosity where we're not in judgment of what is going on, but we're simply just curious.
You're just
And we have
watching.
you're just watching. There's no
You
opinion
just
as such, there's no judgment. There's not even a perspective. You are just in awe and fascinated. And when we take on that energetic space of fascination, there's no right or wrong. You're not in that hyper rational state of it's either one way or the other way. You are open to receive more. And you're literally just gathering data. So, and I think for SMMEs, we need to learn to be curious and just gather the data. Then discern for ourselves how do we move forward in the most positive, reinforcing way, because we cannot be innovative in our businesses and generative by gathering possibilities if we're in judgment, if we're in suffering, if we're in the victim mindset, if we're in scarcity and lack, or we're in projection of what is happening and why is this happening and how is this going to impact us. It does not serve you or anyone. How we navigate this is what's critical here. What's how we navigate it for me as a business owner is to say, this is our reality. And Brad, you said it earlier on. This is not a new thing that's happening. Wars have happened, political instability has happened. It's a repeat, the cycle repeats itself. And the ones that thrive are the ones that sees adversity as that opportunity to move forward, to be a catalyst for that growth. So I'm loving the part where we say, what do we need to let go of and release? And how do we influence this landscape that we are in a more positively reinforcing way? And that cannot come from anyone else but yourself. I see there's a comment. Oh, yes. Shut out the noise. As succinct and specific as it is, that's exactly it. All of the stuff we said, Kelsey, is as simple as that statement. We can't wait to have you on. Maybe you're going to keep Brad and myself honest for stop waffling.
I
Me
think a
just
waffle's good. A waffle now and again is good. And I think it's just about us sharing something that resonates with the people listening in. And we have a lot
Yeah,
of post views, which means this sits in
yeah,
this digital space. And yeah, so shut out the noise. It really is that. But a lot of us don't know what is noise and what is actual messaging. And I think that's the issue. So, you would say to someone, don't pay attention to that. That's noise. But for them, it's not noise. And they have to
Yeah.
decide around what is noise and what isn't. But the only, things have been around. It's just different mediums, but propaganda and all of this has been around for as long as we even when they were doing cave drawings, the people were much bigger than some of that. And, it's this whole propaganda to show the hero. So
Yeah.
that misinformation, humans, our ability or need to misinform, to skewer the opinion in our favor has been there for as long as we've existed. It's a human nature to do that. But we sometimes use that as an excuse or use that as a distraction to keep us away from achieving our greatness. And that's why you have to go within. You have to prepare yourself for your greatness, for your divinity, for your godlike presence. Because if you don't do that, when success comes your way, believe it or not, this sounds really crazy, but you actually push it away. And you push it away by keeping yourself distracted with a whole lot of noise around you. So it's for example, you meet somebody who is really struggling in their business, but wants to have a 3-hour conversation about the politics in the US. And all you want to do is say to this person, stop, let's talk about your business. Let's what's going on? Why? And then they will go, well, this is an experience I've had. He'll say, it's all this political stuff that's just really, I'm just going to have to close my business. And that concerns me because we've always had external influences. We haven't had, maybe has had much noise as what we have now, and it's getting worse and worse as tech grows. But it's really important for us to understand that social media platforms were created to influence. You literally have influencers. Those are platforms to influence. They influence you to believe a certain way. So be very careful about what you align as tools for your success story. So if you have your success story, this is what business ownership will look like for me. This is what I want to earn from my business. You and I talk around that a lot. And now you go out in there to create this success story, to actually create it or to accept it or receive it. You go out. And then you start pulling on all these tools that you don't even need. It's just complicate your life. And you're like, why? Why complicate things? So I think this whole piece that I wrote for this quarter was around letting go. And it deserves 3 months because it takes you such a long time to understand the concept of letting go. How important is it really for you in that given moment? If you ask yourself that question when you face something, you'll be very surprised about the answer you get.
There's a section we're going to go into now, and I kind of want to give a bit of context around finding your flow, and you're going to use the teachings of, or draw on the teachings of Abraham Hicks on how you can look at practices to cultivate a mindset of receptiveness and alignment. But for me, the flow state is when you're in your zone of genius. I think about athletes when they've reached that threshold and they're about to cross the threshold, past their personal best. Sort of that's like when you're in your zone of genius. When you are able to tap into that, you do shut out the noise, so it's the flow state is when the surrender has happened. You're not attached to anything. You're in this complete space of non-attachment. And I have spoken at length of non-attachment on many of our conversations. And I think there's a misunderstanding around what that actually means. Non-attachment is not saying we're not going to be impacted by things. We're human, we're going to be triggered, but we're not allowing it to determine how we show up or what the outcome must be or how we would love our desires or how we want things to be fulfilled in our life. So let's think about Abraham Hicks in the last 9 minutes that we've got remaining. What are some of those teaching where we can cultivate that mindset?
Yeah, so I am fully aware that people that tap into this conversation have different religious backgrounds and beliefs. So I don't really want to call on Abraham Hicks for now in
Okay.
kind of direct quoting, because I feel like it might touch some people in a space that they're not too receptive in. But the one thing that I picked up from this, I'm a huge fan, and it's because it just keeps things really simple for me, and it helps with my ADHD. So it's a beautiful way to absorb information, is the way Hicks portrays the information. But in essence, she's channeling Abraham, so she's challenging a higher spirit. And I was having this very interesting discussion. I know we have 9 minutes. I'll keep it quick. We were talking with an SMME I'm working with around culture and beliefs. And the SMME was like, yeah, we have ancestors. This is our beliefs. I know that maybe for you it's a bit different. And I was like, no, actually, every single culture on this earth has a relationship with past people or past presence that have been with them. So, this thing about ancestry is actually across all cultures. It's just people practice it differently. And with Abraham Hicks, when you're in the flow, meaning when you are aligned with your purpose, you've written your success story and it's all aligned, things will not have any sort of effort or resistance attached to it. You will send a quote. The client may say to you, thank you very much, I'll get back to you. And in 2 days' time, they get back to you. And we've forgotten that about business owners. As business owners, we believe it needs to be the hard close. It needs to be the push. It needs to be that aggressiveness that's attached to owning a business. And actually, it's nothing like that. True alignment, when you're in the flow, whatever your teaching teaches you around that flow concept, things happen effortlessly. Your car breaks down. Okay, my car's broken down. I had to get a meeting at 9 o'clock. Lo and behold, and this has happened to me before, one of your friends drives past, they stop and they give you a ride. You're at your meeting 10 to 9. That literally happened to me. I had a flat tire and my car doesn't have a spare. So when you're in alignment, things flow, growth is natural. It's like a plant, it just keeps growing and growing and growing, and there's no issue. When you start to hit resistance, when you start to be aggressive, when you start to become opinionated, you start to become judgmental, it's all the negatives. You're not in alignment and you're not in flow. And that is when you've got to step back, surrender, recenter yourself, and go back out into the big world.
I love that you're using practical examples. And if I may, I'm going to use, as I always do, some of my own experiences to qualify what Brad is saying is not. It's not a mystery. It does happen. It is when we let go, things happen. For most, I've shared very openly and candidly as a business owner. We all make mistakes. I put my eggs in one basket. I had one of my largest retainer income contracts come to an end in December. And at first, I was in this hustle state and it was like, yikes, I need to replace this. I'm the primary provider.
You ran some ads.
I ran some ads. Nothing came from that. But that's not what I want to share. I hired a wealth coach. Her name was Candace Fox. And I kind of wanted to reconnect to my money story because in my mind, I had dealt with my scarcity lack, coming from scarcity lack growing up. And I was like, no, I'm not that. I'm sorted. I've manifested so much success in my life. So I've got it sorted. More recently, when you have a certain price bracket for your services that you offer or your products, for those that offer products, you put that out there and you kind of expect that it will be accepted. And when it's not accepted, and especially when I am less that fixed income retainer, it's very difficult because now you're waiting for every bit of extra income to come and you want to make up that income. When you're in scarcity and lack, you're never going to make up that income. You're going to have people not agree to your price. You are going to end up feeling like you've reached out to 100 people, 10 showed interest, and wow, only one actually gave you business. That's going to be the reality. My practical example I want to share is when my budget for a program was cut by, call it 50%, I said, that's okay. I'm not going to lie to you. Within that same day, I had another person reach out to me and say, are you available for the next 3 months for this project that you were on before twice? I said, absolutely, yes. Guess what? It's not the full 50% yet that I lost on the other contract, but it was replaced. And why? Because I said, that's okay. I accept the revised quote, and whatever needs to happen will happen, and it will come in again. Literally that same day, a few hours. The very next day, another opportunity came about. I had a conversation very much with no expectations, and I said, let's see where we can align, where there's shared value. I had no expectations. And without me asking or saying these are my services, the person themselves said, here's how I feel we can work together. This is the match. So the moment we are in flow state, when we truly, truly believe that we are worthy and deserving of that divinity that you're referring to, it will come towards you. You just need to stay in your truth. You need to be in surrender. And that flow state doesn't mean you don't do anything. You're still doing what you need to do. It doesn't mean you don't feel the emotions or the triggers. You will still feel all of the above, trust me. But it's your reaction and your response. Am I going to react or am I going to respond? Am I conscious that right now I may have shifted into scarcity? Like, wait, pause for a moment. Let me set that aside. That is also a form of being in your flow state and in that form of genius, because the awareness of where you need to go within is so profound that no matter what contracts you sign or don't sign, or what business you lose along the way or don't replace, it doesn't matter. So that's what I want to do in terms of my own, and this is recent experiences. When I say recent, in the last 2 months.
So you survived the months.
I survived the 2 months. And no, I don't want to use that word. That survival is so bloody negative. I survived. I thrived.
But it's a triumph. It's Tom Hanks and Wilson. It's like you did it. You know what I mean? And because I know your journey, because we've been working with each other and you've been sharing it for so long. And I'm going to toot my own horn here and say, I said to you, it will happen. It will happen. Just mindset.
Yes.
Mindset. It's a difficult one. And it's not, it doesn't feel natural when you have to go and have a coffee and the world's falling around around you. But that's the best time to have coffee, baby. Just watch it burn. And instead of trying to run and go and put that fire out and that fire out, let it burn and something else will grow. And I've done it so many times, and I've done it recently, and it's just working. But yeah, I mean, we're out of time, and I think we're going to have one more session around this.
Yeah, I would like to close off by saying, as much as mindset is pivotal to the journey of letting go and surrender, It is not independently only mindset. It is your mindset, your heart set, and your soul set. As Robin Sharma coined those terms, not mine. It is absolutely the three working in synchronicity to one another. You cannot do one without the other. Because even if you get your mind right, if your heart set and your soul set is not in that flow state or in that state of surrender, you ain't going to be manifesting. On that
Beautiful.
note, Brad, thank you as always. It's always a pleasure. I'm so grateful we did not cancel this. And even if one person got value of this, we thank you. Please share your thoughts. And those that are watching the replay, we value you. And yes, many people do come after the fact. We are grateful to you. And as always, we always give the invitation. If you've got a story to share, if you're an expert in your field, if you want to join myself and Brad in studio so that we can hear other testimonies and not just myself and Brad's, the invitation is open. Reach out to either Brad or myself, and we look forward to touch base with you and share your journey as an invitation for others. I see that Kelsey says, what an amazing session. Insightful as always. Thank you, Kelsey,
Thanks,
for
Kelsey.
always being our cheerleader. Brad, any closing remarks on your side before we end the live?
No, I'm good. I'm going to go and grab a coffee. I'm excited, actually, and a waffle maybe with ice cream. I've been thinking about that in the last 10 minutes. I'm quite excited.
I had one not yesterday, the day before.
I'm definitely going to
Anyway,
grab
stay on the segment. I'm going to end the live, and we normally do our 2-minute debrief. So I'll end it. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. Until next month.
Next month, yeah.